Hello, today I'm going to talk about the localization of Yii2 websites. In Google, people say that every web project wants to go global one day, and it's only a question of time. The growth opportunities worldwide are extremely dependent on whether the website is adapted to various languages and regions. You as a web developer want to think ahead and consider the localization in early phase without having to re-engineer your code every time you need a new language support. In this video, I'm going to explain you how to design your Yii2 web application so that it's easy to translate it without overhead and make it truly international. I'm Lars from Digiterry, let's begin. The localization of your project is already integrated with Yii2 framework, so we can just navigate in Google here, Yii2 localization. So we have here internationalization. They describe here how you can configure your website so you can translate the messages here. Let's just copy and paste it. So we go to our project. In configuration web, we have the components array. We create just new item. As you can see here, we have here source language as English, American English. And we have here two categories, for application and for the errors. For now, we don't need errors. We just do everything in application category. Now let's try to translate our first homepage, some text here. So we go localhost, acme, web. Let's try to translate just this word, congratulations. So they say here we can translate just with echo. Then we use the translation method from Yii2 framework. We say which category and which language we want to translate. So let's find this homepage first. As we discussed it already, we have it here in views, site, index, and this word is here, congratulations. So we want to translate it, that's why we say PHP text to echo the text. Then we say Yii2, or just say Yii, then we use the translation. As we can see here, we use first category, it's application, and we want to translate congratulations. Congratulations. So when we translate the message or when we translate the text, we always translate from the source language. The text that you give here, it's supposed to be source language, and as you can see here, by default, source language is American English. That's why for Yii2 framework, the text that you send here, it's a source language, and it's supposed to be English United States. So that's why we can translate it. As you can see here in the web, we have to have app.php. So we have to have create new folder here. We just do new folder. We call it messages. Inside messages, we write the language code. So in our case, we want to use, for example, English United States. So we say create new folder. We say English United States. Inside this folder, we create the category as a PHP file, app.php. And in this PHP file, we just return the array of translations. So we say return array, translation as a key. So here must be the source language. It means, so this is key, and then here's the translation. As a translation, we can say with uppercase and with exclamation mark, for example. Now let's try and see what happens. So nothing happened. We see still here the key. Why do we see key here? Because as we said, the source language by default it's American English, and we are sending here the source language. And now current, so we can just see what language is set. We say echo the application language, so the current language. As you can see here, we see the now English United States is set here in our project. That's why it will not translate, because it's already American English. So just to see how it works, we create new language. So we say here, for example, German, Germany. And we say we have here also it must be folder. We create in messages new folder, German, Germany. And then we copy and paste the application here, application PHP, and say here, for example, ja, Glückwunsch. So congratulations in German. So, and then it will not still work because we still have English United States here. That's why in a site controller, because we have here views, site, and this index, it means we go to controllers, site controller, and action index, and we can reset here the language. So we can also see how we can reset here. We just say Yii application language, and we say we just force to be German, Germany. Let's try it now. As we can see, it was translated. But for English, it will not translate, yeah, because United States, so it will still show the key, because the source language for your project now is English United States, and that's why it will not translate it. If we say, for example, here, we just remove this, so we have still the key. If we go to our configuration and say here the source language must be, for example, just English, like English International, then it will find the United States English and it will translate it. As you can see, now English United States is no more source language, it's target language in this case, and that's why it was translated. As you maybe are used to see the language code in the URL of your website, for example, like this, English United States, and then it switched to English United States. If you say, for example, Russian, Russia, and just then you go to the Russian translation of your website. So for this, we can just install the small external library to implement this feature, and I personally use the Codemix. So we can just say Yii2 localization Codemix. So I personally prefer to use this one, but it's completely up to you what to use, because in this lesson we're just learning how to use external libraries. This library allows us to make a user-friendly URL, to have a language code here, and maybe we can also create some drop-down where we can change the language of our website. So we can go through and see how we can install it. We use Composer. Composer required, then Codemix, and then Yii2 local URLs. We just copy and paste this, and we can see in Composer JSON, we will see how it's installed. So we see here it's adding one more line, and in vendor, it also must add the Codemix, as you can see here, and the external library is there. Now let's see how can we use it. In our components, we create new URL manager. So I can just copy and paste it. We go to our configuration, and as the last we can add here the URL manager. So as you can see here, we are using the library from this developer, and all the available languages are in this array. So you can of course use English, British English, you can distinguish between Australian English, United States English, and so on. But in this case, in our case, we will just simplify it and we will use just English, for example, just German, and just Russian. And if we implement it now together, for you it will not be a big problem just to follow the instruction, because here you can also distinguish between English or German and so on. So now we have just new 3 languages, and that's why we should here also change the folder names. We go to refactor, rename, and we say German. Then we say, for example, for English, we say English, and we create new folder. We say it's Russian, and we just copy and paste the application category here, and we can quickly also translate it to congratulations. So now we have 3 languages, and it's translated into 3 languages. We can test it to see how it works. We just put here web Russian, so we have a word index here. So it automatically puts English here, and it will not translate it because if you remember, we still have a source language English in our configuration. So I have here source language English. If I remove it, it will be English United States, which is by default, and then it will translate it. Congratulations. Then we can switch manually to Russian, and then, for example, to German. So we don't need the code here, we can just remove it from our view, just to have congratulations word there. I also advise not to put the HTML tags inside the translation. Of course, I could remove it here, for example, and put it into translation, like this. But just try to keep the HTML code outside of translation, because HTML code belongs to the views. Yeah, that's why I try to always put the HTML code outside of translation, and just to have translation words, translation text inside your translation files. So we remove the code, and now we see that if we change it manually in the URL, it works, but we actually still need to change something here a bit. We want to implement also some small drop-down widget where you can change with just mouse click. So this is possible because it's also provided here. If you scroll down, we can see example language selection widget. So we just copy and paste it, and we can see how we can use also widgets in our project. So our widget must be in our components folder. We create new folder. So we have created now messages. So, and same, we can create components and then finish. And inside this, we create a new PHP file. As you can see here, we create with name language dropdown.php. Finish. So we have here the language dropdown, which extends the dropdown from the bootstrap, and we also put here namespace. It's application components. Now we can use it. So before we want to use it, we want to see how we use the dropdown. So we go just Yii2 dropdown widget. So just to know how we use the dropdowns. And here is a small example. We just copy and paste it, and we can see what they do. We go to our home page and say here, for example, Before congratulations, I want to have this drop down widget. So I say here drop down, but this is language drop down. This must be language drop down. Language drop down. It finds automatically from which namespace it comes. So we don't need to send anything. And we can see now. So I'll just do like this. So we must have here drop down class. So the Bootstrap knows how to draw it. Then we have here drop down, then we have label. So we say, for example, language. And then we will have a caret here, some arrow down, and then we will see the languages. Let's try. Third menu source for language. So we can go to language dropdown and we can see here that we are using the language which is not existing actually. It tries to find in German in DE folder, it tries to find language.php file with German key inside this array. But it does not exist. As we can see, we have only application. That's why we go to language dropdown widget, and actually we don't have to translate it here because usually you have here German as Deutsch. We don't have French, we have then English as English. And as you remember, we have one more language as Russian. And usually we put it here in Russian. So now it should say it's okay. As you can see, we have here language. It's a label in our homepage. It's in our homepage, it's a label, and then comes the widget with the available languages. As you can see now, we have German and Russian, and it does not show the current because it's logically correct. Yeah? We don't want to switch to the current language. And if I press here German, we see the website is automatically translated. So we can see Russian also. So it works. But of course, this placing is not so good. I want to place it somewhere here, maybe in among menu items. So for example, we'll have home, about, contact, login, and then we will have the language dropdown. So for this one, we revert this file. It's a home page. We don't need it here. We want to have this language dropdown not only on the home page but everywhere. So to change it everywhere, we should navigate to our views, layouts as you remember, and this is main. So this is the main page. As you can see here, we have content, and this content is changed if we press any buttons, if we follow links and so on. But this is our header, and we have here also footer. As you can see, here is my company and powered, and you can see here my company, powered. We can see here my company. It's a navigation bar, and here we have the links. As you can see, home, about, contact, and if you're a guest, we show the login. If you are not guest, it means you can log out with this label. You have logout, and then you have in brackets your username. So we want to put it here. We can just add one more item. We say label, the current language, it is Yii application language, and then we have here items. Items means when you click, what kind of drop down must come. And we say here is just it's our widget, language drop down, and we say it's a widget. So now we should already see something here. As you can see, we have here home, about, contact, login, and then we have here RU, the code, language code. So we can switch to English, and then we have here English and so on. And the website is also translated automatically. So it looks not so good. We want to have maybe here also the language written in the text. So we can use also this, we can still use this drop down, scroll down, we can see here function, label, and we can see it's exactly where did we change it. So you just provide the code and it returns the text. That's why we can use it also here. So we say in our main, so we say language drop down, then we had the static function called label, and we provide the code. So that's why we have here now Russian, then it comes English, and then German. So it works so far. And we can also here, since we are using this 2 times the full path, we can remove the full path here. Now the system doesn't know which language drop down I mean. That's why we say here just use language drop down from components. Just not to repeat here many times the full path. That's why we can here just put use, and it still works. We can also try to translate the menu items here. So as you see here, it's in home, about, contact. So we do just here Yii, then we use translation file from the category application, and the word is translation key is home. So the same we do for about, contact, login, and logout we can do it later. So about, we just do here. Then we have here contact and login. So I remove login here. So now we only put it here in our application PHP. So we say, for example, for Russian, we have here home. So we just translate it here. We will translate it later. So we have here home, about, contact, and login. Let's quickly translate it. We say, for example, and for example, login. I'll just copy this, and we can also translate for English. So for English we have the same, like the keys. And for German, we can just also quickly translate it. We leave it home. We say, for example, about us. And login, we say login. Unmelden. So we have translated just a small part of our project, and we can see how it works here. So if I just update the page, you can see the links were also updated automatically. Then we can see English, and then we can see German. So German. So it works perfectly here. And the links are changed as well if you change the language. That's all for this time. In this video I have explained you how to design a Yii2 web application so that it's easier to adapt it to different languages and regions. Now you have the knowledge how to build an international website and use this knowledge for all your web projects. I hope that internationalization feature of the Yii2 framework will open new markets for your project and let your audience grow worldwide. Thanks for watching, I wish you much fun with coding and good luck!